Just a couple of days ago, the American Athletic Conference released their 2025-2026 women's basketball conference schedule pairings. So now we know who's going where, but not yet when. But the balance makes a difference. I'm about to tell you who gets it easy, who gets it hard, and what do Mel Gibson and Jackie Robinson have to do with the new 10-team postseason tournament format? Mm, didn't think we were going there today, did you? Well, we are. So, you look at the new American Athletic Conference women's basketball slate, and I got to tell you, it's a pretty interesting picture when you think about the new pairings for 2025 and 2026. And I want to tell you about it, but some caveats first off. One, this is based on the performance in conference play by your scheduled opponents for this year last season. So obviously, we're using the most recent record that we have for those opponents. It does not include the performance of those teams at neutral sites last year. So any postseason meetings between these two sides at the league tournament in Fort Worth were excluded in this analysis. And lastly, volume gets the initial priority over location. So that means instead of home and road performance being specifically measured, I looked at how often do you have to face the teams that were best in the league last year rather than were they really good at home, were they really good on the road, and where are you expected to face them this coming season? So, those are the three things as we get down to business that I want you to remember as we look at the American Athletic Conference women's basketball picture for 2025 and 2026, specifically the conference slate. So, as we go through those pairings, the first things that we want to describe to you are the teams that have it the easiest this season. So we start with UAB. The Blazers, led by Randy Norton, are going to play statistically the easiest schedule of any team in the American this year. Why do I say that? Well, they are going to play five opponents who were under 500 in league play last year, and they'll see them each twice. So that's 10 games out of the 18 game schedule for 2025 2026. That will be against teams that were below 500 in conference play last year. So that potentially sets up well for a rebuilt Blazers team, which is going to need a lot of production from the likes of Jordan Rozier, Monet Duffy, and some other important returners like Alicia Carter and Journey Armstead as well. So we'll see how the Blazers fare, but statistically, they may have a nice road when they get to conference play, and we'll see how ready they are for that once they are there in January or perhaps late December. Those two, or I should say, that Blazers team, followed by East Carolina and Tulsa, facing the teams that are, in terms of the last season's performance, lowest among the American Athletic Conference, and they'll see them most often. So that's usually more home and home matchups rather than just home only or road only matchups. If it's not clear, you see six teams twice, you see three teams only once at home, and you see three teams only once on the road. So that's how the breakdown goes for the 13 team American Athletic Conference that plays an 18 game slate. Now, who has it easiest at home? I think it's the Tulane Green Wave. And you look at that, judging it based on the fact that they were going to face three teams that were sub 500 in the league last year in home only contests. And that is contrasted by the UTSA Roadrunners, who are going to have the easiest road only slate, right? When you look at those couple of teams, UTSA is going to get three teams on the road that had 7 league wins or fewer last year. And Tulane, as we mentioned, is going to get three teams that are below 500 on the season. So those to me are below 500 last year in league play, and they're going to see them at home. So if you want the specifics of that, I can give it to you, and I will. Tulane is going to see UAB, Charlotte, and East Carolina at home this season. UTSA, meanwhile, is going to see Charlotte, East Carolina, and Tulane at home this season. So those are, I think, the interesting points there when you talk about who has it easy and who has it hard in the American. And for UAB, just to round out the full accounting of this, the Blazers are going to see a couple of teams twice that they like: Charlotte, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Memphis, North Texas, which is maybe the outlier there, and Wichita State. So hopefully that is a fortuitous blend for the Blazers. And like we said moments ago, it's going to be the Blazers who have the easiest road. It's going to be the easiest conference slate overall, because they're going to see a lot of sub 500 teams, or maybe around 500 teams twice, home and home. But for the other two sides, UTSA is going to have the easiest slate on the road, and Tulane's going to have the easiest slate in conference play projected at home. So you go from those teams, obviously, who might think they have at least a good draw, so to speak. And then you got to go to the tough side of the bracket, if you will, right? I look at the Rice Owls, a team that I think has performed extremely well over the last couple of seasons. Rice clearly has the most difficult schedule this upcoming season based on what teams have done last year. Okay. They are going to face all five teams that had 11 plus conference victories last year twice this coming season. That's UTSA, North Texas, South Florida, Tulsa, and Temple. So that is 10 of their 18 games coming against teams that won at least 11 games in the league last year. That is brutal for Lindsey Edmonds' side. So we will see how they will fare. They've been selective in their building of the roster, and they have a good bit of continuity coming back from last season, as they typically do. But they did not, so to speak, get the easiest draw, at least here deep in the offseason. Rice, followed by East Carolina, who has, I think, to me, the toughest road only trio in terms of matchups on the American Athletic Conference women's basketball slate. They will see North Texas, UTSA, and Tulane on the road. And Memphis, which is close behind them, will see North Texas, Temple, and Tulsa on the road. Uh, but Charlotte is close behind them as well. South Florida, UTSA, Tulane on the road. So those are all three tough road slates when you're saying road only teams. But I think East Carolina stands out with North Texas at the Super Pit, UTSA playing at the Convocation Center, and Tulane playing at Fogelman Arena, aka Devlin Fieldhouse. Those are going to be very tough matchups based on what those teams have done in last season. You go to the toughest home only trio, and we have to go west to Wichita, all the way west. They will see North Texas, UTSA, and Temple only at home. And that is a nightmare scenario for Terry Nooner's club. And I'll get to a little bit more on why in a minute. But you can't really pick a harder trio to face only once at home in those games. But UAB also had a fairly competitive home only slate, as they will take on USF, Temple, and UTSA. That's the third team in that trio for the Blazers. So even though UAB had, yeah, we expect statistically the easiest conference slate overall, they will get some tough matchups at home against some of those heavyweights that we've expected to be in the top five in the league over the last couple of seasons. Now, to what I mentioned moments ago, this won't make complete sense to you, but I did some analysis in the last couple of days, and what I found was related, at least in some measure, to Jackie Robinson's steal of home. Right? You want to be safe in your home digs, and I think that's super important based on how the tournament format has changed for the American Athletic Conference. A couple of days ago, Tim Pernetti announces we're going to 10 teams in the postseason tournament. So it is a 13-team league, meaning the cut line stops after the best 10 teams in the league. The last three teams in the league do not get in. They do not PESCO, do not collect $200 or any potential prize for going to the NCAA tournament based on automatic qualifying through the league's conference tournament, right? This is done for competitive advantage. When you look at what happens to those top 10 teams in the league, what's most important is winning their games at home. Okay. In the past two seasons, four of the 20 teams that have finished in the top 10 in the American were under 500. Only four. Okay. They all came this past season, none the previous year, because there was a huge tie at 9-9 among a whole swath of teams that included the 10th and ninth seeds, which ended up in the conference championship game, East Carolina and Rice. When you look at the home road splits in league play, it shows that those four teams this past season, okay, East Carolina, Rice, UAB, and Memphis, those four teams won at least four home games each in conference play, and the bottom three teams in the American did not. So, taking care of business means getting and winning some good home matchups. 17 home wins between those four teams, 10 road wins between those four teams. So when you look at that, 62% of their 27 conference wins last year were at home. So it is so huge to hold serve when the ball is on your racket, so to speak. And it helps to get matchups that are winnable at home in pursuit of getting at least 4 home wins on the season in conference play. So, using that as the minimum, what you don't want to run into are teams that are road warriors. And Mel Gibson could tell you a thing or two about that. But the best teams on the road in the American over the last 2 seasons, their full season road records, not counting neutral sites. Temple 18 and 9, UTSA 18 and 14, and North Texas 17 and 13. I'm going by usually the cumulative win total of those last 2 seasons, but 18 wins and 17 wins, those are for sure the upper crust of the American in terms of team performance in road environments. Now, when you think about Temple, UTSA, and North Texas being road warriors, and you think about American teams wanting to be safe at home, the team, unfortunately, that is probably the least safe at home is Wichita State once again. They get the brunt of this because they will see those 3 teams only at home this coming season. And Wichita has not been good at holding serve in their home court, right? It has been a tough time at the Roundhouse the last couple of seasons. I believe Wichita 13 and 19 in that category in home games over the last couple of years. So, them facing the 3 teams that have been best on the road the last 2 years is going to be a very, very tall task for Terry Nooner's side, and that will test them late in the season. Even though it's only 3 games, right? And you'd rather just do that, I think, than see those good teams twice. It certainly is tough, when the onus is on winning your home contests, and you get to see the 3 toughest teams that have been road warriors over the last couple of years. Those are the ones that are coming into your building. So Wichita State, because of that, has it very tough. So that's my initial recap of the American Athletic Conference women's basketball pairings for the upcoming 2025-2026 season. We made you think. If we made you say something you liked, if we made you say something you didn't, please get at me in the comments or on social media. I'm not hard to find. I'm Tyler Springs, and I'm delighted to bring you American Athletic Conference women's basketball content throughout the season. And if you were a fan of a team that didn't get mentioned here, that means you fall somewhere in the middle. So don't worry about it. Look, it's all projection right now, and we'll just have to see how things play out this coming season.